Hello, Year 11. This is Mrs. Crowhurst here, and this will be your first English lesson video. We're going to be focusing on creative writing during your time at home. And our first lesson is going to be the creative writing task on the English language paper and how to plan a response. So this is going to run like a normal lesson with similar activities to what you would do in class. All you need to do or have to complete this lesson is, have some paper in front of you with a pen or pencil, or you can use your phone to type your responses, or your laptop or a tablet. But just make sure you are also, listening, paying attention, and also writing down your ideas in response to the tasks. So to start with, I would like you to complete the Do It Now. So what we're working on is looking at planning a piece of descriptive writing. So you have a picture here to look at. And if you had to write a description of the scene in this picture, what details would you describe? So for Do It Now, list 5 things that you could potentially describe in the scene. So look carefully at the picture. You are also allowed to use your imagination a bit as well. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. Pause the video if you need some extra time, and then we'll go over some possible ideas. Okay, so pause the video if you need some extra time, and well done if you've had a go at the challenge, which is to turn one of the details into a sentence. Just some ideas based on the picture of things you could possibly describe. The rain falling, it looks like the streets are wet. I can't see any rain in the picture, but I can imagine it might be there. The street lights gives me something to describe as well. The shop front, some are still lit up, and then some are quite dark, so that's quite an interesting contrast. People walking on the pavements, you've got all different kinds of people. We can't see into their faces, but obviously I could use my imagination to come up with details about that in my writing. Cars, I see a hint of a car or bus or tram in the distance, so I could add cars into my description. Obviously the night sky, you can't see much of it, but a sky and the weather is always a really good thing to describe. And then some ideas based on my imagination, things that I could add in that could potentially be there that I don't see in the picture. So the wind, there could possibly be a bit of wind, blowing signs, and people's jackets and umbrellas. As well, I don't see any umbrellas, but I could imagine them and put them into the scene. And then maybe a character, so a woman walking home with heavy shopping bags. Maybe I could describe that character in detail. So those are just some ideas, and I'm going to talk you through exactly what we're going to be covering in this lesson. What are we doing? We're going to be learning how to plan a piece of descriptive writing. Why are we doing this? Well, for your English language paper 1, section B, the bit that comes after the 4 reading questions that you've been working on in your English lessons, you will be required to produce a piece of creative writing, and they'll give you a picture or a written task to do that. How are we going to be doing that in this lesson today? Well, we will be looking closely at the task and what exactly it's asking you to do, learning how to create an effective plan, and then creating your own plans based on, a choice of images. First of all, the task. Always in English language paper section B on paper 1, you will be given a picture and a choice of 2 tasks. So it'll either say write a description suggested by this picture, or it'll say write a story suggested by this picture, and then it'll give you a written task saying, something like write the opening part of a story about the place that is affected by the weather. So whatever task you are given, you should spend 45 minutes on that section of the paper. You will have spent an hour on the reading questions and looking at the text, and you should save at least 45 minutes to do this writing section because it is worth 40 marks. So both tasks will usually be linked to the same topic, something about the weather in this case. It'll usually be linked to an idea in the text that you've read. The more descriptive your piece of writing, the more you'll be able to show off your writing skills using methods and devices, a range of sentences, and a structure for the reader to follow. So although it's tempting to jump straight into a story that's quite adventurous and fast-paced, what the examiners are really looking for is evidence that you can write really well and really descriptively. So that's why we're going to be focusing on descriptive skills in these lessons. Yes, you're going to be marked on your content, so what you write about, how well you use sentences, punctuation, grammar, spelling, and your ideas. How creative is your piece? How detailed is it? And this question is worth 40 marks. So as I said before, it's absolutely essential that you put effort and time into this. And it's important to plan your story or your description because it's a plan that can help guide you to create a structure that will help you to get marks. So still on the topic of structure, yes, you're going to get marks on your writing and your sentences and your punctuation and your spelling, but also there's a part of the mark scheme that is just linked to how you structure or organize your description or story. So up here in the top two bands, which is where we're aiming to get, a grade 4 or higher, it keeps talking about structural features. And then it also talks about the fact that you need developed ideas, connected ideas, clear ideas. And it talks about paragraphs as well. So you need to think and plan out your paragraphs. So a major section of the mark scheme will look at this, which is why we're focusing on planning today. And you've got to structure your writing. This is why you need a plan. Use features. When they say structural features, it's all those things that we look at for that question 3 on the reading section. So things like foreshadowing. What are you going to focus on at the beginning? What are you going to focus on at the middle? And what are you going to focus on at the end? How are you going to read build the reader's interest using specific details? And also you've got to use paragraphs. If you write one massive chunk and you don't have paragraphs, you can literally get no higher than a very low grade just because of that fact alone. So this is important. Okay, so we're focusing on descriptive writing because the more descriptive you are, the more marks you get. So we're going to be looking at how to use something called a zoom lens to plan and develop your writing. So if you're someone who has taken photography or is interested in taking pictures or film, you will know that you can take kind of wide shots where you zoom out and then closer shots where you zoom in on specific details. So we want to try to do the same thing in our writing. So instead of jumping straight into an action story, see the scene in the picture like you're behind a camera lens, and give wider views of things like the sky and the weather in the setting. Even if you can't see much of it in the picture, you can use your imagination to do this. Zoom in on specific details and objects for the reader to try to magnify specific aspects of the scene and show that you can focus in on those details. It's always a good idea to build the scene slowly for your reader so they can imagine you're there within it, so make it come to life. Don't just jump from one event to another. Don't have it take place over a series of days. Really just stretch out the time, over, a small period of time where the scene just changes gradually. And it's always a good idea to try to maybe start your scene calm and then maybe end with a bit of chaos at the end. So you actually have a structure where you're building tension, because tension is what creates interest for a reader, and that's what we want to. So just to look at structure and how another student may have structured a description, what I'd like you to do is read through these quotes. This isn't a full description here. It's just sections of a student description. Read through them. They are not in the correct order. And match them to the different parts of the structure at the bottom. So below we've got, the different steps that a description might go through, starting with a description, zooming out on the sky or weather. So just look at the lettered boxes and match them to the different numbered parts of a description, the order that should go. So these are out of order. Put them in this order, which one matches with which. And then if you finish that quite quickly, consider the STAR challenge and make some notes on what's effective about the structure used here. Why might the way the student is chosen to structure and focus on specific details in this order be considered clear or connected on the mark scheme? So I'll give you a few minutes to carefully read these examples, match each lettered box to the type the focus down here, and then we'll go through it. Okay, so pause the video. Obviously, you probably will need to pause, so you can spend the time that you need. So just use this video however you need to go at the pace you want to. So here it says, begins by zooming out to describe the sky or weather for number 1. So where they've done that is D here in the blue box. So they're describing the sun rising. You can see they're trying to use devices. They're using quite complex sentences, but they're just focusing on the sky here and what's in the sky. They've moved on to the mist, the night air, and they haven't jumped all over the place with loads of details. It is just literally about the weather and the sky and the setting in whatever picture they're looking at. Number 2, zooms in on an object or objects, not people, that are part of the scene. So up here, that would be A. So they have zoomed in on a fishing boat, which may be in their picture. They might have placed it, if it's a picture of the sea, they might have just put it there with their imagination. So they describe that boat. You can see they're starting to go into quite a bit of detail, the way it slices through the water. Then they can start zooming in on the paint on the bow of the boat. So they've just tried to go from the sky to an object. Okay. And then number 3, zooms in on a person or further details about the scene, and they give a hint at change coming. So they have described a person here in the green box in B. So it's just describing this man, and it doesn't tell us he's an elderly man. It kind of describes it and shows us that. So saying that his eyes are surrounded by waves of wrinkles. And they link him into the setting. You know, he's looking at the light, looking at the sunrise, and enjoying the peace of the early morning. So you can see how these paragraphs are starting to link in ever so slowly. And let's see, does it hint at change? Well, it's got this short sentence here before, you know, whatever happens next. He knew it wouldn't last. So it's peaceful, it's lovely and beautiful, this sunrise at the beach or at the seaside, but he knows it wouldn't last. So that may give some foreshadowing that something's about to happen eventually in the scene. And then number 4 ends with a change to the scene. So it has to have changed from the opening. So it's peaceful at the opening. Let's see what they've done here. Okay, so this change, it looks like, you know, the quiet beach that only had maybe 1 or 2 people walking a boat here and there is now eventually within a matter of hours filled with people. And they've introduced the fact that it's a bank holiday. And so they changed the scene by describing kids everywhere, disturbing the natural environment. And so that's a bit of chaos. They don't have, you know, a tidal wave hitting the shore, which isn't quite believable, I think, in a short description. They've just got something small that introduces a small aspect of change and chaos from that beginning. So what's effective about this structure? Yes, it's slow. Yes, the description is a bit cheesy. However, they are showing that they're developing their ideas in detail and using really descriptive language as much as possible to try to start in a calm way, build up the scene through zooming out and then zooming in on things, and then ending, you know, with a change. And that would help the student to get marks on the mark scheme because it looks as if they thought about and planned their writing carefully, and it's highly descriptive. So if they've been asked to write a description, they have done that. All right. Now let's have a look back at the image from our Do It Now. And I would like you to think about, if we had to write a description of this scene, what details would we describe if we were using the same structure as, you know, the student in the previous task? So I'd just like for you to spend a minute or so looking at the picture, thinking about, you know, what could you describe in each area here, and make a mind map, actually, if you're making notes or writing on paper, please. And just in the middle of the mind map, you could write city scene, and then paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, paragraph 4. So you might have 4 arms to your mind map, and just jot down some ideas about what you might put in these different sections, and just spend a minute or two on that, and then we'll go over some ideas and see what's possible for a picture like this. Okay. So some ideas. So the sky and the weather, obviously in the picture you can't really see much, but you would need to use your imagination for that. Because to start out a description, describing the setting is probably the best idea. So, the night sky, I could obviously describe the darkness of the sky, the black color of the sky. Even though you can't see it, I might start with a glimpse of the moon or the stars, and maybe rain clouds passing over them. It just gives me some detail to show off my writing skills with. Maybe I might add in some occasional drizzle coming down. I might use, a simile or a metaphor or even personification to do that. And then I could add in a bit of Mr. Fogg. If my paragraph felt a bit short, I could always add in some imaginary Mr. Fogg. And I could imitate, maybe something that I'd read about in Jekyll and Hyde or something. So you can use ideas from other things that you'd read. So paragraph 2, now I need to choose an object. One object that has caught my eye are just all these shop fronts, okay? So I've got some that are really dark and some that are really light. So I might choose a shop front at closing time, the doors being shut and locked against the night and the people. I might describe the darkness inside and how maybe eerie or quiet it seems versus maybe the lights, the bright lights outside of the signs and the street lights. And then, I might just focus on the reflection of light on the wet pavements. That'll give me something interesting to describe. So literally shop fronts and lights, those are my objects for paragraph 2 that I'm going to zoom in on. In terms of a person, I can't see any people because their backs are all turned in this picture. But I could, use my imagination to place someone in this scene. So I am going to place an elderly woman walking home with heavy shopping bags, in the drizzling rain, just, to create a bit of a character within the scene. I might describe her face, tired but determined. I wouldn't say that. I would describe it in the way that, I chose my vocabulary to describe her actual face and the way she's walking and carrying the bags. And then I would try maybe to add in a bit of wind, because I need to add in a hint of chaos or a bit of foreshadowing that there's going to be a change at the end of this. So although it was drizzly and cloudy, I'm going to add in a bit of wind, tugging at her jacket, maybe pulling at her umbrella. I'm going to give her an umbrella. It's another something I can describe. And then lastly, I need to end with a change. It can't be anything hugely drastic or too action-packed because it's a description, but I might increase the wind, which I hinted at in this paragraph, and then have a few umbrellas turn outwards. You know how they do when a big gust comes. People start rushing home instead of just kind of casually walking. The drizzle turns to a downpour. I could even add in a bit of thunder. And then I might return, to the sentence I may have used at the start to describe the night sky. I might use similar words to mirror the beginning, but I might just end with the idea that it's pitch black. All the any hint of stars or moon is completely covered with this rainy, dark, cloud-covered situation at the very end. So that's my plan. Structural features, well, I've got a bit of foreshadowing here. I might mirror my last sentence with my beginning sentence, link those together to show the change. And I might, add in some repeated words or phrases to emphasize, the darkness of the night and the bad weather or something. So those could be some of my structural. Now for your task, I want you to choose 2 of the images below here. I've got some more natural scenes versus some more kind of urban scenes, and I'd like you to create 2 mind maps, okay? So if I was going to do this bus scene here, I would just write bus scene in the middle of my mind map, and then I would have 4 arms, 1 for each paragraph. And I want you to spend some time, thinking about what details you would put or you would think about describing in each one of those paragraphs, and try to use the suggested structure. So start with the sky and the weather, move on to an object, then add a person, and it can be more than one object for paragraph 2, and then end with a change. Not a drastic change, we don't want a dinosaur bursting onto the scene, but something subtle that does create a bit of chaos in contrast to the calm from the beginning. So 2 mind maps, choose 2 images, 1 at a time, and for each section, try to think of 3 to 4 details for each paragraph to give you a plan to follow. If you find that very easy and creative writing is something that you're pretty confident with already, then once you've done your 2 plans, choose one of the plans, maybe the one that you felt the most confident with, and write your opening paragraph. So just your paragraph 1, focusing on the sky or the weather, and try to use a variety of sentence types and devices to create a detailed yet calm start. So spend a good, 15 to 20 minutes planning out, at least 15 minutes planning out your descriptions for 2 of these pictures. And if you have the time, write the opening. So I'll give you some time to do that. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here for 15 minutes while you do it on the video, but pause the video to complete that task. Okay, so hopefully that wasn't too difficult. Always, email your teacher if you're finding this really stressful, and we can help you with some ideas or give you some more examples. And well done if you made it on and completed an opening paragraph. That'll be great practice. And what I'd like us to do is just go through a true or false quiz. So read the 5 true or false statements below, write true or false for each one, and it's just based on how much you've paid attention to some of the advice given in this lesson about descriptive writing. So I'll give you a minute or so to do that, and then we'll go over the answers. Okay, so number 1, you will only need 30 minutes for the creative writing section of the exam. That is false. The whole language paper 1 is 1 hour and 45 minutes. So you'd spend 1 hour on the reading questions and leave yourself 45 minutes for the creative writing section, because it's worth so many marks. You need that 45 minutes to plan and then write something very detailed. Number 2, making a plan will help you structure your writing in a way that gets marks from the examiners. That is true. As many people that actually enjoy just writing without a plan, and it can be effective sometimes. In an exam, you may be stressed, you may be tired after answering the reading questions, so you need to just plan out those 4 paragraphs and what you're going to focus on, and actually create a structure that includes some structural features so you can get the marks that you need to do well. Number 3, you are not allowed to use your imagination. Only objects or things in the picture can be described. That is false. Yes, you can use your imagination. Yes, you can add details to the picture and change the scene, as time passes. That's absolutely fine. Number 4, you should try to jump straight into action and chaos from the very beginning. That is false. Because, to get the marks, you need to show that you can build attention and develop your description and make it clear and connected. So as tempting as it is to write an action story straight away, if you're completing a description, you need to take things slow and, follow the structure, or try to. May not be an exact order that we've practiced, but really try to start with the setting or the weather and move forward and zoom in on different details. And then number 5, using structural features like foreshadowing or linking the beginning to the end can help you gain marks. That is true. Those are things that might make your piece of writing stand out to the examiner and actually, show them that you have thought about what you were describing and how it links together and considered how you're going to create tension for your reader, and create a circular narrative where you link your beginning to the end, can really help show off your skills. So please send your work that you completed today, either a picture of it or save the Word document or document you're writing on, and send it to your English teacher so they can see that you completed your work for today. Thank you.